What's up, everybody? Welcome to the video. Chris Pennell here, breaking down week 1 of the NFL season for DraftKings and FanDuel. We already did a video earlier in the week going position by position, talking stacks, and building a lineup together. If you want to check that out, I'd recommend doing that as it's pretty consolidated. A nice, quick, short video breaking down the entire slate. But I want to do this later in the week video because we've had some news that have broke, and I'm sure you guys probably know what I am talking about. And we're going to go game by game, look at some data, and break it all down once again. So if that sounds good to you, do me a favor, leave a like down below. Scott channel for brand new. Let's dive right into it. And really quick, if you do see anything on the screen that you like, you can find it at cpendfs.com, a brand new website that I built myself, has projections, optimizers, and everything else you pretty much need each and every single week for NFL DFS. I do cover showdown slates and the classic main slate every single Sunday. So if you want to come in and check that out, I'd love to have you. And I do offer a free week trial if you want to come in and check it out. So there's absolutely no reason not to. All right, so since we did the video earlier in the week, position by position, talked about all that, I don't want to just regurgitate the same exact information. So I feel like the easiest way to do this is go game by game. And I'm not going to go in-depth detail on every single game because I am not the kind of person that wants to sit here for an hour and waste your time. I respect you guys more than that. So we're going to keep things simple. And if I don't really like a game, we'll just kind of sift through that quite quickly. And we're going to look at some other tools and data as we go through this to either back up some claims or just kind of help position ourselves for Sunday. So the first game up, we have the Las Vegas Raiders and the New England Patriots, 43.5 point over under, which is not great, but it's not terrible. I mean, there's worse games. The next one up is the Jets and the Pittsburgh Steelers at 38.5, which are very gross. I believe that is the lowest on the entire slate. But let's talk this game. So while on paper it might not seem like amazing, like it just doesn't jump off the page to Patriots and the Raiders, but there is some decent DFS plays in this game. And we'll start with the two quarterbacks. I am not in love with either, but surprisingly enough, Drake May actually popped up as one of my highest, most optimal simmed quarterbacks on the entire slate, which really surprised me. And of course, Jay Daniels is going to be number 1. But if we head over to the cheat sheet here thing, and I have like 30 options. I know you can't see them on the screen, but top 10 DK optimal quarterbacks. Drake May popped in at 2nd for me, which was really surprising. So it kind of made me look at his projection. And honestly, this seems pretty reasonable for him. Not too much in the passing department of 212 yards. But at the same time, he's kind of sneaky, like on the ground. I mean, I don't know if a lot of people realize this, but we've got him projected for nearly 30 rushing yards in this game. Now, while that's not Jaden Daniels level, we're paying $5,500 for Drake May. It's just the issue with him is that there's not that many great stacking options. Of course, we have Stephon Diggs, but the rest of the offense, as far as being a stacking option, it's a bit grimy. So I wouldn't be completely against Drake May naked on this slate. Now, on the other side of this game, we have Geno Smith, Ashton Genty, Jacoby Myers, Dante Thornton, which I know some people are going to be a bit excited about. Brock Bowers, the best tight end in football right now. At least that's what we're projecting for this season. Now, the New England Patriots star corner is going to be out for this game, Christian Gonzalez. So that could be a boost for the passing game here. But for me, it's not really a game that I'm looking to target too much. Ashton Genty on FanDuel at that price point of $6,400. He projects as one of the better point per dollar options at the position. I will be perfectly fine with that. And then Brock Bowers, of course, projects awesome. He's the tight end 1 on this slate. From a projection standpoint, I currently think David Njoku is the best play from a point per dollar standpoint, but not a ton of interest in this one. Moving on to our next game, we have Pittsburgh and New York. It's not really a game I'm looking to target. Justin Fields naked is fine, kind of similar to Drake May, although Justin Fields has slightly more rushing upside. But if you're going to stack, it's Garrett Wilson, but even then, he doesn't project that well, and I have absolutely zero interest in anybody else on this team. I hated Breece Hall coming into the year. I don't love this spot versus Pittsburgh. On the Pittsburgh side of things, there may be a time when we stack Aaron Rodgers and DK Metcalf, but I don't really think this is the time versus the New York Jets. I mean, this game just does not project to be at a very high pace, high scoring. There's just not a lot to love. And now Jaylen Warren does show some decent positive leverage for running backs on DraftKings, so he might be someone that I do get to a little bit at only $5,200 because we do have some pass catching upside, and his rushing and receiving prop at his price point honestly isn't too bad. So Jaylen Warren's really the only one on my radar in this game, maybe outside of some naked Justin Fields. So I guess show me the OnlyFans, Justin. I could subscribe for the week, but I don't really have any interest in this game outside of that. Now we fortunately get a fun one here. This is going to be a game that everybody wants to stack up this week. The 2.5 point spread and your 48 point over under. We're in the Dome in Atlanta. It's an NFC South showdown. There tends to be points in these games because the offenses are pretty solid and the defenses are pretty bad. And that's what we are getting right here. So we'll start on the Tampa side of things. I like basically everybody, at least the main components. That would be Baker Mayfield, Bucky Irving, Mike Evans, and Ibuka. Ibuka is one of the top point per dollar options at the wide receiver position. He'll be pretty chalky on this slate. Now, if we're talking large field tournaments, it's week 1. The contests are huge. The ownership gets spread out. So it's not like we're going to have a 50% owned guy. Maybe in the kind of contest you were in, but don't worry about anything outrageous. But really easy to double stack this with Baker. Play Mike Evans with him, play Ibuka. Baker is not that mobile of a quarterback. I know he had like a career high in rushing yards last year, but kind of view him as the pocket passer. And if Baker is going to score points in this game, you don't want to play him naked, because if he's scoring points, that means Evans is scoring points, Ibuka is scoring points. So very easy to correlate your lineups with him. If you avoid the passing game, I like Bucky Irving. He came on very strong in the second half of last year. He's one of the most talented running backs in the game. We have some PPR upside. Rashad White he's not going to just be a complete bell cow, get 100% of the snaps. That's just not going to happen with Rashad White. Rashad White's still going to eat into his role, which does kind of give him that downside where he's not a complete top tier back, but the talent is there, and this is a great situation. Now, on the Atlanta side of things, I'm not as interested. I do like it as a game stack. I am going to have Atlanta shares, Michael Penix with Drake London. But outside Drake London, I mean, Darnell Mooney's interesting. Aaron McLeod, we saw him have some sparks last year. But for me, it's Bijan and Drake London. But I do think this game is a bit straightforward. Now, one that I have a lot of interest in, especially in tournaments, is going to be this Miami and Indianapolis game. 47.5 point over-under, which is the exact same as the last game we talked about. 1.5 point spread, also in a dome. It's honestly very similar, but just in general, this game is going to be low around. Now, there is one major chalk spot here, and it's going to be Devon Chan. He is a cash game lock, cash game staple. This week, he projects awesome. Now, Jalen Wright did get ruled out, so his Ollie Gordon projection is going to end up going up. I do have to update that. And I'm not sure that's really going to eat into Devon Chan's at all. But the PPR upside with him, the floor is high, the ceiling is high. Yes, awesome for cash games. But everybody else, this is a great spot for, I think, Tua and the passing game. They're also slight underdogs here, but 1.5 point spread, high total. We're in a dome. Don't have any weather to worry about. Tua is healthy currently. I know Tyreek Hill was washed last year, but for coming into the season fresh, this is probably the best time to target it. We're getting Tyreek Hill sub 7K. Very solid projection there. Also, it looks like Darren Waller is not going to play. So it's going to be very consolidated just between Devon Chan, Tyreek Hill, and Jalen Waddle. It's very easy to double stack with Tua. You can put in Devon Chan if you want in those stacks with Tua, because he is highly involved in the passing game. Probably going to get a handful of targets from him. I don't love any of the run backs from Indianapolis, but Daniel Jones also did not sim too bad at that price point. Only $5,100. You do have some slight rushing upside there. So it kind of puts you in that similar range of Drake May. I did want to show you guys something visually, because we can talk numbers, we can talk stats, whatever. But when you see the things visually, it kind of helps paint a better picture. So let's go to DraftKings only right here. And we're going to look at the team salary versus implied team total. And this is typically the range you want to be in. A cheaper team with a higher total. These are the expensive teams. The Bengals, of course, are expensive. They project well. They have a high implied team total. They're going to be in the top right, which, of course. But if you can get a cheaper team with a decent total, it's sometimes going to be the sweet spot for tournaments. And we're going to talk about the Jaguars. We like them. We like Trevor Lawrence. We like BTJ, of course. We like the Commanders this week. But the Colts do find themselves in that situation. So I'm not going to completely rule out Daniel Jones and maybe a pass catcher with him. It feels a little gross, but I think if you're like playing the Millie, it's worth a few shares. But Miami does almost find their way in there. Now, Devon Chan, he's a little expensive. Tyreek Hill, that's kind of pushing them a little bit towards that upper right range. But it's close enough to where I think we can almost pretty much group them in that group. So you're getting both teams in that range. So it just screams like a really good tournament spot for me. And if we're looking at the team projection versus ownership, Miami, Devon Chan's kind of killing them there. But yeah, this is definitely one I'm looking to target in tournaments. I feel like by Sunday, they're going to get steamed up a little bit. It just seems very appealing to me. I cannot be the only one that thinks this. So we'll have to see what ownership looks like by the time Sunday actually rolls around. So now we have the Cardinals and the New Orleans Saints. Outside of Alvin Kamara, there is no interest for me on the Saints side of things. Kamara does actually show some decent positive leverage at the running back position. I mean, he's just going to have to get peppered with targets. The target share is going to be good. I mean, it's going to happen all season long. They really have nothing else to do. Spencer Rattler's going to be a mess at quarterback. Hopefully he dumps it down to Alvin Kamara, and the floor will be nice. I think the ceiling's going to be a bit capped because I don't really know how many times this team is going to be in scoring position too often. So the touchdown upside for Kamara, probably a bit nerfed this season, but I think the floor is decent. But moving on to the Arizona side of things, because this is where people are going to want to play players. 25.5 implied team total, one of the better ones on the slate. Honestly, I don't have a lot of interest individually on these players outside of James Conner. I think James Conner is a pretty safe play this week. I believe he currently, Saquon Barkley already played, so I believe he is now sitting up at the very top as the best odds to score a touchdown this week. He's only $6,100. We know he's not the sexy pick, and Trey Benson's going to eat into his workload a bit, but I still think he's a very safe bet for 15, 20 touches in this game, with a couple of that being receptions to boost that floor. But if we get into the answer for James Conner, I think we're very easily seeing 15 plus points out of him. Everybody else, they're tournament plays, in my opinion. If you want to play Kyler Murray, of course, he can run the ball a bit, but I would still get a pass catcher with him. For me, Terry McBride would be number 1, and then Marvin Harrison, number 2. He's only $5,500. He is very up or down. We'll see if he can kind of solidify himself as a more alpha dog wide receiver 1 this season. The projection's not great on him, but at that price point, there is certainly upside. I really don't think he has a great floor, but the ceiling is, of course, really nice. So if we go to the next game, we have Washington versus the New York Giants. 45.5 point over under, 6-point spread in the Commanders' favor. We have our QB1 on the slate, Jaden Daniels here. If you are spending up at quarterback, he has the safest floor. I don't know if we're going to call him the highest ceiling. It's pretty close. I mean, Joe Burrow has a very high ceiling. There's a couple of other quarterbacks as well, but there's no Lamar Jackson, no Josh Allen on the slate, no Jalen Hurts. So he definitely kind of is right there with Joe Burrow as just being the top 2 QBs. If you have the money for him, of course. If not, I've seen a lot of people going Trevor Lawrence, who we're going to talk about next to save some money to fit in a guy like Jamar Chase and Christian McCaffrey. But yes, Daniels, excellent play. My top projected quarterback. I don't think we're going to have too much resistance here at home versus the New York Giants defense. Outside of Jaden Daniels, we obviously had the off-the-field contract issues with Terry McLaurin. Sounds like he's going to be good to go if you are stacking with Jaden Daniels. You could do Jaden Daniels plus Terry McLaurin, run it back with someone like Malik Neighbors. I know playing Giants players is never fun, but they look like they're going to be trailing in this one. I mean, just based off the spread, they're a 6-point dog on the road. They're probably going to throw in quite a bit in the second half. And Malik Neighbors is obviously quarterback proof. We saw that last year. Russell Wilson, I will say, is an upgrade from them. We could get some nice rainbow bombs to Malik Neighbors, hopefully, if we can push for double-digit targets in this game, if not a little bit higher, maybe close to 15. I see no reason why Malik Neighbors cannot be in play on this slate at his price point of only $7,000. Outside of that, maybe Zach Ertz if you're looking to double stack with Jay Daniels, if you want to forego Terry McLaurin because you don't really trust him to be fully ready to go in week 1, I am fine with that. But for me, Jaden Daniels, Malik Neighbors are certainly really the only talking points for me. But let's get into the fun game. I absolutely love both sides of it. I will have a lot of exposure in this game. We'll start with the Carolina Panthers first. Trevor Lawrence projects to be a top 3 owned quarterback for me. And of course, it's only Friday afternoon, so these things do fluctuate by the time kickoff happens. But if Trevor Lawrence is going to be chalky, it's pretty easy to pivot to Bryce Young. Now, he is $400 more expensive, and that's kind of the reason the Jaguars have the higher implied team total. I get it. People don't really like Bryce Young. But I love his wide receiver 1, Ted McMillan, on this slate. Now, other people do too. He's going to be fairly chalky. He is one of the best point per dollar options on the slate, but there's really nobody else to get the ball to in this offense. They just picked up Hunter Renfrow. Xavier Legette is there. David Moore, lost Jalen Coker, Jatavian Sanders. Do have Chuba Hubbard in the backfield, which a lot of people are playing the passing attack on both sides. He could be a way to get contrarian while still getting pieces of this game. Last year, both of these defenses were bottom 2 in EPA on defense, and the Carolina Panthers were historically bad, allowed the most points in history. Now, of course, we cannot go specifically off of matchups last year, but it's very hard to overturn a bad defense that quick. So I think there's going to be points scored in this game. 46.5 point over under, 3.5 point spread. So yeah, I'm in here. I mean, a very popular stack is going to be Trevor Lawrence, Brian Thomas in this game, ran back with Ted McMillan. If you were doing that thinking you're going to be different today or Sunday, you're not, unfortunately. But it still looks great. I mean, it's great on paper. It's great projection-wise. We do have Travis Hunter there. He's going to be a bit of a question mark of how he is utilized in this offense, of course, with it being week 1. Don't really love the running back situation on the Jacksonville Jaguars. Definitely split backfield. You also have Newton coming in, so we'll have to see how that kind of gets spread around this week. But for me, the passing game on both sides is what I am most interested in. And then we have the illustrious Joe Bowl this week. And this is something I'm going to have a lot of for DFS. There's just so much to like as far as the price tags are concerned on the Cleveland side of things. And while Cincy is a bit expensive, I do think it's worth it at their price points. This is the highest total on the slate at 27.5 implied team total-wise for the Bengals. And the Cleveland Browns are sitting at 21.5. We know the Bengals' defensive struggles last year. The offensive struggles were non-existent. Joe Burrow was fantastic. Jamar Chase, there's a reason he's going 101 in fantasy drafts this year. T. Higgins, when healthy, is absolutely incredible. And Chase Brown was great in the backfield too. And I think we pretty much see more of the same this year. I don't think their defense is going to be much better. Maybe it's slightly improved, but this offense is going nowhere. And while it's not a top 5 matchup versus the Cleveland Browns, I'll take an elite offense any day, no matter what the matchup is. But I love the price tags over in Cleveland. So there's a lot of value at quarterback this week where Joe Flacco isn't necessary. Like if this was another week, like week 8, everyone's appropriately priced, and we have Flacco sitting there under 5K, he would probably be the chalk this week. I don't really expect that to be the case, and we're probably going to have him sitting around 4-6% ownership as far as like a large field contest would be, but at his price point, it's very easy to double stack. Like, you can pretty much load up the rest of your lineup if you double stack with Cleveland. I actually did this in my preview video last weekend. But if you go Flacco, Jerry Jeudy at $5,400 and David Njoku at $4,700, you can easily fit in Jamar Chase on the other side. You could even double run it back with T. Higgins, just go a full-on game stack. Hope this game scores 50 points. That is 100% possible. Both these quarterbacks do project to be top 3 in pass attempts this week. So I love both sides here. Jerry Jeudy, there's just no one behind him at the wide receiver position where I get really that concerned. I mean, Cedric Tillman's okay with Jamari Thrash, Isaiah Bond. It's going to be David Njoku and Jerry Jeudy. That's the show here for Cleveland. And then I think we all know what's going to happen on Cincy. It's going to be Jamar Chase, Chase Brown, T. Higgins, and Joe Burrow. So I will have a lot of exposure in this game. And yeah, I'm definitely, these last 2 games are ones that are really going to be very high as far as my exposures are when I enter contests this weekend. Next seems pretty boring for me. I really don't have much interest here at all. I will not be playing Cam Moore. There's just too many other more appealing quarterbacks, and there's a lot of cheap quarterbacks, so it's not really like anything that stands out to me. I don't have any interest in Tony Pollard as being a 10-point dog nearly on the road in Denver. Calvin Ridley, no thank you. There's just really nobody here I like. Now, Bo Nix, he's obviously a fine option at quarterback, top 10 guy on a weekly basis, has a little bit of rushing upside. I don't hate it, Courtland Sutton, but I don't really have much interest here. And if I like the last 2 games, I like a couple of games before that, I'm going to have to start crossing some games off my list. I like the Denver Broncos defense. They're expensive, but if you can afford them, great. But I don't really think there's too much DFS appeal in this one. Now we have San Francisco and the Seattle Seahawks. Only a 43.5 point over-under in this one, but we do have some major question marks in this game. And number one being Christian McCaffrey. He comes in at $7,300. Before I started recording, I have not yet, we'll have to see if Christian McCaffrey ends up playing, but assuming he was fully good to go, he was going to be top 2 ownership with Devonta Chan. Everyone wants to play him. He's the top projected running back on the slate. He's too cheap for being healthy, although we're not really sure if that's the case anymore. He popped up on the injury report with a calf issue, and then he did not practice with the team on Friday. But I did get an update mid-recording. I took a pause, drank some water, and saw that Christian McCaffrey said he anticipates to play and that he feels great. Is it more smoke and mirrors? I have no idea. If Christian McCaffrey is guaranteed a full role that we expected, where he's getting 15 plus carries on the ground, a handful of targets, 20 plus opportunities, he is the best player running back. It's Christian McCaffrey when he's healthy, and at this price point, back in the day, we paid over $10K for Christian McCaffrey at times. So this is truly just going to have to be a wait and see approach. I don't think we're going to get enough necessary information probably until Sunday morning or late Saturday night. So wait and see here. But if we were guaranteed he is good, he's my top running back. But as of right now, I don't know. Other guys in the 49ers, Ricky Pearsall. I was really hoping Juwan Jennings was going to be out for this game. He looks like he's going to be good to go. So that does kind of drop Ricky Pearsall a little bit. I did have him projected around 12, 13 points. That has now dropped to around 11. I still think he's a viable option, but I do think Ibuka is probably the better choice at wide receiver now at a similar price point, but I don't think you can go wrong with either. And then George Kittle is still going to be one of the top tight end options on a weekly basis. And for the Seattle Seahawks, no real interest here. If you are doing any Brock Purdy stacks, you could run back with a JSN if you want, but I just don't really see too much DFS appeal. Kenneth Walker isn't horrible. Sub 6K is the only issue with Kenneth Walker is he just doesn't stay healthy, but this is DFS, don't really care on a week per week basis. And right now he is healthy, so I don't mind that. But there's just other good running backs on the slate that I liked where I don't really want to get to him. Like I'd rather play James Conner for $200 more. So he's nothing but more of a large field tournament flyer, in my opinion. Now, this is a game that I think is going to be great for real life purposes. But for DFS, I haven't really found myself getting here at all. I almost forget this game exists, which is crazy because it's probably one of the better real life games of the entire slate. A lot of people out of America is going to be excited for this one. I'll be excited to watch it in the late window, but there's just so many options to where it's like, at these price points, it's just not that appealing for me. I think the big talking point is probably the wide receiver room for Green Bay. Jaden Reed's questionable. Dontavia Wicks is questionable. It's a bit of a carousel. Jordan Love does spread it out. I think the one thing we can guarantee in this game is that Josh Jacobs is going to get the ball a ton. It's not the best spot versus Detroit. I know their defense at the end of the year last season was absolutely decimated, but the run defense prior to that was very solid. For Detroit, again, it's just another offense that has a lot of mouths to feed. Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, it's going to be a similar split to last season, although I do think it leans more in Jahmyr Gibbs' favor. this year. And as you can see by my projection, Jahmyr Gibbs obviously edging out Dave Montgomery by a decent chunk. But I usually only have interest in the passing attack for Detroit, where they're at home in the Dome, where Jared Goff's splits are much more favorable. So I'm probably going to pass here on the road in Green Bay. Like I said, a great real life game, but not one that I'm targeting for DFS much. Which it sounds weird, but I do think there's definitely better games, better price points. And then we have Houston and Los Angeles to end this main slate. And I would say there's really only one guy that I'm looking to target, and that's going to be Nico Collins. In this game, he's $7,400, no Christian Kirk. I know Jaden Higgins, the rookie. I'm excited for him. I think he's very talented, and we'll have to see what he has week one. Always hard to trust rookie wide receivers in week one, especially when they're not the number one, like say a Ted McMillan on their team. But we'll see if he can flash, and then maybe we can start really playing him, or at least until Christian Kirk comes back, whenever that happens to be. But I don't want to play Nick Chubb. I don't want to play Dameon Pierce, Noel, Hutchinson, Schultz, Stroud. I'm going to have to pass. The total doesn't really warrant me having too much interest in this game anyway. Nico Collins at that price, he's the only guy really that I trust in that offense, so he should eat from a volume perspective. We'll see if he can turn that into actual production, but he is one of the best wide receivers in the league. As far as the Rams, the wide receivers go as Matthew Stafford goes, and obviously there's a lot of question marks coming in to the start of the season. He's going to be good to go, but we had some major back issues, and if he goes down, Puka Nacua and Devontae Adams are going right down with him. So they are I think they're a bit risky this year overall. Now for week one, I don't have too many concerns, but this is, like I said, this is not really a game that I'm looking to stack up too much. It's only 43.5 point over under. I just think there's better games at better prices. Like Puka Nacua is nearly $8,000. Adams is $6,100. I know Matthew Stafford can support two wide receivers. Puka, of course, being the one that we would prioritize, but there's just not a lot for me to like. I mean, Kyren Williams in the right spot. I play him at $6,500. There's just better options to me, so I'm going to have to pass, really. All right, so heading over to the optimizer here. We did this last week, and we're going to do it again. Now, projections can obviously change by the time Sunday rolls around, but I want to give you guys an idea of maybe what to expect, and just to see what optimizers are spitting out. Of course, this is mine, so it's my own projections, and I built this, but I'm sure it can't deviate too much else from the industry, so it's probably going to be somewhat close as far as median projections are concerned, but let's put 150 really quick. I don't know what exactly I want to do with these settings. They're going to be very basic. We're just going to run 25% randomness. That should help maybe combat some variances and projections across the industry. Now, some cool things, like if you are playing, like say the Millie this week, you can exclude players over a certain percent own. So if I put 20 here, I'm not going to be able to get to McCaffrey in my lineups, not going to be able to get to Devon Chan. And we could also play with the max lineup ownership, like the sum of it. So say if I put 20 in here, we're going to get some pretty nasty lineups. It's still going to try to get the best lineup possible, but it's going to have to stay the entire lineup under 20%. So if you're looking to avoid chalk, this is another tool that you can use, and I do think it is pretty useful. So for stacking, we could honestly just not do the stacks for the first run, just see which players are popping based off of that. So I'll hit optimize here, and we will see which players are going here. So it looks like I'm seeing a lot of Jaden Daniel. This is just randomness with no stacks. Let's head over to the QBs as it pours in. Man, I'm sure the numbers are going to change a crazy amount as these lineups do get built. So Jaden Daniels, Trevor Lawrence, Drake May. And I talked about Drake May. I was looking at his projection. I was surprised how much he is popping, but he actually might end up being higher owned than I expected. He's currently my top leverage quarterback. Maybe I'm just a little bit under as far as ownership is concerned, projection-wise, but I don't hate him. But Trevor Lawrence popping a ton, Jaden Daniels, Baker Mayfield, Joe Burrow, all guys we talked about, Daniel Jones coming up, and we're only talking like 6.7%. Trevor Lawrence with 25% randomness, 18%. I do think that's going to be the top two, Trevor Lawrence, Jaden Daniels in ownership. Joe Burrow might be a bit higher there, but since I'm not forcing stacks, it's not wanting him as much. I did notice one thing, if I do 4 stacks, especially double stacks, it loves Joe Flacco because he's cheap, his stacking options are cheap, and you'll see how much that ownership does end up fluctuating. And we have the team exposures here, tons of Cleveland, tons of Miami, tons of Tampa, tons of San Francisco, Arizona. We have the stack shapes, then we have the lineup cards down here. But let's just kind of go position here. Alvin Kamara, James Conner. That's a lot of Alvin Kamara. Devon Chan, Christian McCaffrey, Chase Brown. Not really too surprised at the top 5. I did think Devon Chan might be a little bit higher, kind of just splitting hairs. And keep in mind, this does have a lot of randomness. If there was no randomness, I'm assuming a chance at the very top. Ibuka on the top of the list here. Jerry Jeudy, Tet, Nico Collins, Tyreek. I mean, these are basically like my core 5 besides Jamar Chase. So I totally get that. David Njoku, I'm assuming far and away the best. He just projects so well for me. It's very hard to get away from David Njoku, and defense is probably very flat. But 49ers, Broncos, Raiders, and Bengals. But let's see what changes when we do end up forcing stacks, because if we're going to force, say, a 2-stack at minimum with our quarterback, some of these guys that don't have great stacking options, the ownership's going to be a lot lower. Like Drake May is a guy that doesn't have great stacking options. I think that ends up pushing him down a little bit just for this example. But a guy like Joe Flacco, who has 2 very good stacking options at cheap price points, really bumps him up. So we'll put a minimum of 2 here. We'll do a bring back. Now, of course, if I did this, I do not want every single team like that. Like if I want some Justin Fields lineups, I don't want double stacks with Justin Fields. So you can do the override here. We can pick a team. Say we did end up doing this. We could force maybe 1 or 0 if you don't want to have a stack with it. Or you could just leave it like this. That's perfectly fine, because that would make it to where it could be like 0-3, which you're absolutely not going to get 3 with Justin Fields. But I'm just going to leave that bare for now and not do anything too in depth. We could also play with the exact exposures. My big head's in the way. But let's just run that clean with the double stacks here. We're going to see how much different these lineups do end up looking exposure-wise. So Baker Mayfield, I'm assuming that's a lot of Mike Evans and Ibuka, at least at the very beginning. Ibuka and Mike Evans there, ran back with Drake London. That's going to be very popular. And actually, I really like the way that lineup looks. I don't like the Browns defense being in there, but the rest of the lineup looks pretty fire. But as you can see, as more lineups pop in, Joe Flacco getting absolutely steamed up. Jaden Daniels, he'd be another one of those guys where I would not force a double stack. Running backs, want a chance. It's the same running backs, because obviously they're not getting affected by any means. When we're talking stacks, Jerry Judy's getting in more just because of how much Joe Flacco we have. Jamar Chase, Ibuka, Nico Collins, even though we're not really using CJ Stroud much. And David Njoku, nothing changes with Njoku. He was there when just like cashy option. Then when you force a double stack with this quarterback, it just reaffirms him even more. So I don't really think there's too much else to say. Just trying to give you guys an idea of things you can do and play around with. But with that being said, that's all I got for you guys today. So if you enjoyed, even if you didn't, make sure you leave a like down below. Scratch it for brand new. If any questions, comments, concerns, leave them down below. I'm more than happy to answer them. And if you want to check out all the extra content over on the new website, be my guest. Link down in the description or the pinned comment. But I'll see y'all next time, and I wish you all the best for week 1.